We were just talking about government overstepping its bounds by having warrantless searches. What about arresting someone for walking up and down on a public sidewalk? Think it can't happen in Canada? It happens time and again. It happened recently to a British Columbia couple who had been told they couldn't protest abortion. So they walked up and down the sidewalk handing out information about the injunction saying you couldn't do anything on the sidewalk, not mentioning abortion. They got arrested. Linda Gibbons has been arrested about 20 times since 1994. She was arrested again recently. She is the grandmother that has spent about 10 years out of the last 20 in jail for her desire just to walk up and down on a public sidewalk and protest abortion. Alyssa Golob is with Campaign Life Coalition Youth. She joins us now from Toronto. And Alyssa, this is one of the ongoing disturbing cases in terms of the attempt to silence people who just want to protest abortion. Tell us about Linda Gibbons. I've met her, I've had her on the show, but remind people, is this a violent woman?
Absolutely not. Linda Gibbons is a 64-year-old grandmother who is post-abortive herself. She did have an abortion in her earlier years. And so now she feels it's her calling to go and protest outside of abortuaries in Toronto, and she's done it in Ottawa as well, and basically hold a sign and just silently pray outside the clinics. And sometimes when girls walk in, she'll maybe try and hand them a pamphlet or two. Very non-aggressive, very sweet lady, and she's been arrested 10...
That's her walking. People can see the video clip. Mm-hmm. She's just walking on a sidewalk. She's not stopping anyone.
And she's been arrested 10 out of the past 15 years, and she's been in jail longer than Carla Homolka, Paul Bernardo's wife. So just to give you a comparison as to the crimes that both of these people did and the sentencing thereafter.
Now, this is all due to temporary injunction. And I want to read off part of this. She did try and appeal this all the way to the Supreme Court. I don't believe she was successful, but here's what the injunction says. The plaintiff's claim, and it was the Attorney General of Ontario, the plaintiff's claim is for an interlocutory and permanent injunctions restraining the defendants from A, watching or besetting or causing to be watched and besetted the premises listed in this notice of action, impeding, interfering, blocking, or obstructing, or attempting to impede, interfere, block, or obstruct ingress or egress to and from the said premises by any means whatsoever, or C, causing or attempting to cause a public nuisance within 500 feet of said premises. You know, I could understand the B there, impeding, interfering, blocking. If she were chaining herself to the door and saying, I'm not going to let anyone in, I could understand her being arrested. Of course, they won't stop unions blocking people from getting to the workplace when they do that. Mm-hmm. But I can understand, because we still have to follow the rule of law. But she's just walking on a public sidewalk.
And Matt,
that's the horrible part of this.
Mm-hmm. And Matt Gurney of the National Post wrote about this, and he said that it's comparable to the Occupy Toronto protesters. Both were committing minor violations, city violations. Even the Occupy Toronto protesters being even worse because they damaged public property, took away business from small businesses, whereas Linda is not harming anybody. She's just standing there and praying. Yet Linda gets consistently thrown in jail over the past 15 years, and the Occupy Toronto protesters walk away scot-free.
How many cops did they send out this time to take down the frail, tiny granny that I could probably pick up with one arm?
On average, it's usually 4 cop cars, 2 to each cop car. So I've been there.
We're talking 8 police officers.
Mm-hmm, 8 police officers. Sometimes the police chief as well has come down. It's a big ordeal. It's a big show. But you know, it's in my opinion, it's a positive thing that it is a big spectacle, because she's raising awareness of this unjust law. People are asking, why is this little woman getting arrested? And Martin Luther King Jr. said, when you break an unjust law to arouse the conscience of the community, you are therefore, you know, holding the highest respect for the law. And I think that applies to Linda in this situation.
You mentioned the Occupy Toronto people and the Occupy movement across the country. Across the country, the camps were breaking laws, and police would do nothing, and politicians would praise them, and that's obviously not the case here. But I think of the number of violent protests I've been at, but particularly the G20, where police stood by and watched people attack cars, set cars on fire, mm-hmm. and did not arrest. Mm-hmm. There is just such a double standard here that we really do need to raise the consciousness and say, this is wrong. If Linda Gibbons, there's another woman, we're almost out of time, but there's another woman, Mary Wagner, I believe is her name.
Mary.
She actually goes into the clinics and starts trying to counsel women that are waiting. At that point, she is breaking the law, so I have a hard time defending her. But this should not be considered breaking the law for walking on a public sidewalk.
I absolutely don't think it should be breaking the law. And even in Mary's case, you know, she is entering private property, but she's trying to counsel children from being safe, to counsel women from having the abortion. I would compare it to, you know, somebody who's walking down the sidewalk and looking into a house, a private property house, and a man is beating his 2-year-old son. Would you just keep walking and say, oh, it's private property, it's not my business?
I understand, but because of the laws that we have to try and find a way to work within them if we're going to denounce the unjust ones. So this one, she's not bursting in anywhere. She isn't obstructing. She's not attacking anyone.
No, absolutely not. So I think, yeah, I think it's very unjust, and I think that, you know, more people have to rally behind and support Linda and make sure that this temporary injunction, it either gets, you know, something's done with it. It's not just left temporary for an indefinite amount of time.
Forever, yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Alyssa, good talking to you as always, and best of luck with your campaign.
Thanks, Brian.